Hey, how's it going? Quick video here going over some Linux commands because we're living and working in Linux this quarter, this entire year, I'm seeing some people having some struggles with working in and manipulating a Linux environment. So I want to go through some of the basic commands that we'll be using again and again, and some of the concepts. So the first thing is the idea of a working directory. So when you log into the Linux machine, you're sitting in a directory. For each of us, this is /home/our username. And a directory is like a folder under Windows, right? So it's a place where all of our files will be stored. And if you say ls, you can see the files in your directory. And currently there's no files sitting in here. So I can make a file called file1. And now if I say ls, there's file 1. And I could make a file 2 and, add some stuff into that. And now if I say ls, there's two files, file 1 and file 2. So we can have files in our current directory. We can also make subdirectories. So I can create a new directory under here. So let me do mkdir for create a directory. And let me call this, homework 002, because we've been working on that so far. And now if I say ls, I've got two files and a directory. And if I say ls, which shows me my current files, there's switches I can put on there, things that modify the behavior. For example, ls-l shows me a long listing, and here I can see this little d in the beginning of this line that tells me that homework 002 is a directory, whereas without a d, these things are just plain files. Alright, another switch I can use on ls is ls-a, and -a shows me what are called hidden files, files that begin with a period. So we always have these .bash files. We have a .ssh if we've set up this public-private key pair for git, and so on and so forth. And if I want, I could do an ls-a-l and see, long files, including hidden files. And if I do an ls-a-l-t, it will sort these by how recently they were created. So my newest entry, homework 002, was created just now. And if I do an ls-a-l-t-r, it'll reverse the order and put the most recent files down at the bottom. So these are different switches for the ls command, and all these switches that begin with a dash can be combined. So I could say ls-alrt, and it will do the same thing as typing in, -a-l-r-t, shows me my reverse order sorted files. So all of our commands have switches, and you can use the manual command man, say man ls, to look at the contents of a file. So let me make main program. And this will just be a hello world. Alright, so now if I do an ls, I've got file 1, file 2, a subdirectory called homework 02, and I've got main.c. So if I compile it, gcc main.c, what do I get? I get an executable file called a.out, and if I type a.out, it'll run it. If I want to get rid of that a.out, I can say rm for remove a.out, and that gets rid of my file. And now if I try to say a.out, it says command not found. So when we compile a program, usually what I'm going to do is I'm going to say gcc, and I'm going to say with a switch -o for output file, main, and this says I want my output file to be called main. So it compiles, and now if I look, I have an executable file called main, and if I say main, it executes that program. If I say a.out, I get an error because there is no a.out. Now, main.c is a file containing some information in it. It's the source code for my file. If I just say main.c, Bash thinks I'm trying to execute this file, and I can't execute a source code file, so I get this error, permission denied. If I want to look at the contents, I know that I can VI it, but I can also use a different program like cat which will show me the contents on my screen. Or I could use the command more, which will show it to me one line at a time, or I could use the command less, which shows it to me one line at a time, but with a slightly different format, and I hit a Q to get out of the less command. So when you try to look at the assignment for a README file, you can't just say /temp README 401C, because it thinks I'm trying to execute this file. What I need to do is say something like cat /temp /README 401C, and that'll show me the contents of the file. Alright, so I've created a subdirectory called homework002. I can change into that directory with the cd command, cd space homework002. And now if I print my working directory, I'm in that subdirectory, and if I say ls, there's no files in here yet because I haven't created any. So I could create a new file. Let's create a README with, you know, a misspelled message in there. And now if I look and I say ls, I can see the README file. Now if I go back to my home directory, print working directory shows me I'm in my home. If I say ls, I don't see the README. Why? Because it's in a subdirectory. So I can cd back into homework002, and now if I do ls, there's the README. Alright, suppose I want to get rid of that homework002. Well, if I just say remove, let's say I want to get rid of file 1, I can say remove file 1, that's gone, right? That deletes it. But if I try to remove homework002, it tells me that's a directory. So to remove a directory, I have to use rmdir, remove directory, homework002, and if I try to do that, it's going to tell me the directory is not empty. So what could I do? Well, I could cd into the directory, I could remove the files in that directory, I could cd back and then remove directory, but there's another way I can do this. I can say remove, and I can put some switches on it. I can say -rfi homework002. So this says recursively delete all the files starting with homework002, and the I makes it interactive. It's going to ask me each file, do you want to delete it? And that can be a bit of a pain. So should I go into this directory? I'll say yes. Should I remove the README file? Yes. Should I remove the directory homework002 itself? Yes. And now homework002 is gone. I don't need that -I switch though. I could have just said rm-rf homework002, and it would just totally get rid of it without asking any questions. But again, if you do that in the wrong place, that can cause problems. For example, right now if I say rm-rf star, poof, all my files are gone. No questions asked, no confirmation. If that's not something I wanted to do, I just lost a bunch of work. Alright, what else can we do? Here's file 1. If I do an ls, I've got a file 1. If I want to rename that, I can use the move command. So mv, if I just hit enter, it'll say missing file operand. I can do a man on mv, and it says source and destination. So if I want to rename file 1, I could say move file 1 to file 2, and now if I look, I've got a file 2. And what's inside file 2, the same thing that was in file 1. So I've just renamed it. So MV is for removing. If I want to make a copy, I can copy file 2 to file 3, and now I've got two files, file 2 and file 3. File 3 is an exact copy of file 2. Alright, let me make a directory, homework002, and I've got some files here. Let me move all of my files into homework002. So now I have one directory in my home directory area, which is homework002, and if I go into that directory, there's the two files I just moved into there. And I could make a README, and maybe I can make a subdirectory under here, and I can go into old, and I can make an older work file, and so on. So now I've got a whole directory tree. Right, in my home directory I have homework002. Underneath there I've got 3 files, and I also have a directory called old, and I can say go into old, and inside there's an older work file. I can say cd ... to move up one directory, so now I'm back in homework 2. I can say cd ... again, and now I'm in my actual home directory. And when I say ls, if I say ls file2, it just shows me file2. But if I say ls with the name of a directory, it shows me the contents of that directory. So you can play with these and see what they do. Another command that's really useful is copying an entire directory. So let's say I want to make a backup of my homework 002. I can say copy-r for recursive, homework 002 to homework 002. Let me call it backup. And now I have two directories. And if I look in homework 002 backup, it's got 3 files and it's got an old. And I can look in homework 002 backup / old, and there's a copy of my older work. And now if I were to remove everything from homework 002, all I have left is my homework 002 backup, but that's a complete backup of all my work. So if you're playing around with Git and you're trying to do some heavy-handed things like, delete an entire repository and stuff, you can use some of these commands, but you can also make backups in the process. Alright, one more thing I want to show you. Let's make a file called main.c, and I'm editing this file, and I can go back in and re-edit it. And let's suppose that something happens. Let's suppose I am editing this, and while I'm editing it, maybe I close out my window. And I shouldn't do this, but I close it out anyway. Alright, and this can happen if your network connection goes away, or your computer crashes, or something like that. And so I come back into the system, and I look, and there's my main.c, and I try to edit main.c. And sometimes this works fine, but let me deliberately break this. Alright, so I'm going to come along and I'm going to hop back onto the system. Alright, so I can look, and there's my main.c, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to edit that. And I get this annoying window which says, hey, a swap file has been found. Another program may be editing the file, and editing session for this file crashed. So that's what happened in this case, right? I was editing, and things went away. Okay, so what do you do about this? Let's go ahead and first of all, let's just hit an O, uppercase O, to say open read only. And take a look at the file. See if it's the way that you want it to be. And it's possible that you were making changes and they didn't get saved. And if that's the case, then you're going to want to quit out of here, edit again, and say recover, type in R. But, if I type in O and this file looks fine, okay, I'm good to go. So I can edit the file again, and I can say D to say delete that swap file. And if I do that, then this message will go away. But let me quit out of here and show you what's happening. So, here's what I see in my directory. But in fact, there's a hidden file called .main.c.swap. And that was created when I started editing main.c, specifically to remind the editor if something goes awry and my session ends abruptly, the next time I try to edit, it'll say, hey, you were in the middle of editing. But so I could either delete that with an rm command, or I can come in here and I can just hit a D, which says delete the swap file. And now if I come back into main.c, everything's back to where it should be. So do that open read only option first. Make sure your file is what you want, and then if it looks good, go ahead and just delete that swap file, either by using the D option in VI or just rm.main.c.swap. Alright, hopefully that helps. See you later.